Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. Today, we're going to be talking about life outside the military. I have Andrea Duran on the show, and she's going to share her experience with being in the military and what life was like being out of the military. Get you something to drink, get you a snack, and come on back. Good morning, Andrea. You got some coffee, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good, good.
Oh man, I saw that cup. I got me some Powerade, just some with a little bit of sugar in there,
Yeah.
just a little weight. But how you been doing overall? I know we've been talking off and on, and everything's going okay.
Yeah, everything's going good, good.
Okay, just making it. So why don't you reintroduce yourself to the folks who's watching this? Because we might have people watching this that didn't watch your last show, and then we'll just go from there.
Okay. My name is Andrea Duran. I am prior military. I was in the Air Force for 8 years total. And now I'm civilian, just adapting and pivoting and moving just like the rest.
Yes, absolutely. And Andrea, you also have a little son. Well, I should say a little son, but you also have a son as well that you help support as well. So, all
Yeah.
right.
He's not so much little. He towers over me, but yeah, almost a grown adult. So yeah, it's great.
Nice.
Teenage life. Woo.
Yeah. So, Andrea, were you born here in Sacramento? Where were you born at?
Originally I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, and back in after grade school, I moved out to California when I
Okay.
was like 12, and then I've been out here ever since.
Oh, wow. So, do you remember growing up in the Utah area? Like, you have any memories of growing up in those areas?
Oh yeah, I do lots. It was a great area back then to like really grow up in. There was a lot of things for kids to do. And so I had a lot of fun. I mean, sometimes I miss the snow and sometimes I don't. I don't
Yeah.
miss the freezing, but playing in the snow was awesome.
Yeah, nice. And so, do you have any siblings? Are you only child or?
I am an only child. I think I was enough for everybody.
Oh, I love it. And so, when you moved here to Sacramento, there was somewhat of a change. How was that for you? Or you felt like you just got more acclimated being in
Uh,
Sacramento?
Culturally, definitely a shock.
Yeah,
Utah, it's a very sheltered kind of life, upbringing. And then you come out to California and it's just crazy and wild and just, yeah, it was a definite culture shock and just kind of like, oh,
yeah.
oh.
Wow. So, Andrea, fast forward. You went to the military, and what made you decide to actually sign up for the military and go through with it?
There was a few things. The biggest thing was 9/11 had just happened, and so that was the biggest thing. And my friends and I, we all got together and we're like, "Oh, let's go!" And so there was three of us, and we're all looking to sign up after 9/11 had happened. Needless to say, I was the only one who went. Everyone kind of chickened out and bailed.
Wow.
But, and then the other is I just kind of didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Family felt I should go into one aspect, and I was kind of doing those things. And then I was like, I don't want to do this. And, you kind of get stuck wanting to or needing to do what your family wants you to do with your
Right.
life, and
Right.
rather than finding out who you are. And so I kind of like ended up like dropping out of college, and I was like, oh, and then it came like to confession, hey, dad, sorry for wasting your money, but I don't want to do that. But hey, I'm going in the military.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thinking
Yeah.
like, oh, that's gonna make it so much better. But yeah, it was kind of funny. So I went, and it was really good for me because it gave me the structure and like discipline I was missing in my life,
Yeah.
and really actually straightened me out because I was a bad teenager. Like I
Yeah.
was wild. I was wild, and I was wild. Zero, no one could control me. Like I was wild. And
Yeah.
so military got their hands on me and yeah, straightened me out.
I like the fact that you said that you made this decision for yourself, opposed to doing what your family wants you to do. Because Andrea, sometimes we as human beings, our family have certain expectations for us, and we tend to want to please them and
Mhm.
follow their footsteps or follow their guidance or follow the path that they carve out for us, opposed to following our own path, because we know what works best for us. But it
Right.
seems like, even though your dad had paid for going to school or whatever, and I'm sure that you were, sorry about, wasting his money, but did some switch in you and just said, okay, even though your friends kind of like signed up too, but the fact that you went through with it, did you feel like you really needed what the military had to offer you?
Yes. It was kind of crazy. No one thought I'd do and no one thought I'd even make it in the military because they're like, you cannot do authority.
Yeah.
And you can't
Wow.
do authority, you don't listen well, like no one can control you. Like, how are you gonna make it in the military? And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
we'll find out.
Mm.
And so I did it, and it really restructures me. I mean, they do break you down and rebuild you
Yeah.
and what they need. And, I think a lot of that I needed myself. I was raised by a single mom,
Yeah.
so there wasn't a whole lot of time for structure and discipline
Yeah.
because what time does she really have? She had to work all the time to support us. And
Yeah.
so, in growing up in the 80s and 90s, you're a latch and key kid. You're
Right.
very independent. You raise yourself.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, um, so it was what I needed, and it did straighten me out. And I came back like a little square bear, and it was kind
Yeah.
of a shock for even my friends because, like I said, I was wild.
Yeah.
And so it was good for me, and I needed it. I didn't have direction. I, you know, growing up, I wanted to follow the family business and go into architecture, and I loved it. And my dad being traditional, like he's like, hey, women are starting to get accepted into the profession and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Andrea. And, he wanted me to go into law school because I was great at arguing and
Yeah.
no one could win those with me. And I was like, um, but I didn't want to be a lawyer. So it was just kind of like, I'm living to everyone else's expectations in life but my own. And this was like, in a way, too, for me to break free of everyone's constraint.
Yeah.
But, in essence, you are changing or switching from one dictatorship to another,
Yeah.
but very much so to where they control every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
And but it was good for me.
Yeah. So let's talk about when you finally had, you made up your mind, you're gonna do this, you're gonna go, the communication, the dates are set. Tell me how you felt inwardly like the day before you had to leave. What was going through your mind?
um I couldn't believe I was actually doing something and following through with it. And
Yeah.
uh I was sad. I didn't know what to expect. It was kind of like, oh, okay, we're really doing this. And it's like, oh, like, okay, we're doing this. And you're nervous, you don't know what to expect. And you know I don't know if anyone's seen Save a Private Ryan. It's kind of an old movie. But
Yeah.
um she gets off the bus when she gets in the military, and she starts going through it. She's like, excuse me, I think I'm in the wrong military branch. Like, because when they advertise it, they kind of advertise it glorified and all this stuff.
Right.
You get off and you're just being screamed at and targeted and all this stuff, and it's just like, whoa. So when you get there, you're just kind of like, But I had a little bit of a uh 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 shock at
Yeah,
first. You're like, okay, this is not what I signed up for, but
yeah,
it was good. It was good. I made the most out of it. My squadron was a tough squadron. They called it the House of Hard Knocks, Alcatraz. So
yeah,
no one gets out alive. So that was the motto, and they were pretty hard on us. Like there's all these the nicknames for squadrons. Like you have Candyland, Disneyland, Alcatraz, and they have all these nicknames, and it's basically kind of to signify how easy or hard each squadron like punishes.
So explain the word squadron for those who don't have a military background.
um, so when you go to basic, I mean, there's so many people. So there's all these different squadrons, like units that it's usually like 50 or well, actually it's like 100 females, 100 males,
Okay.
and per squadron, and then uh the flights are the individual. So the squadron's actually huge, but they have each week progressing. And then you have the flights, which is my flight is the 100 male, 100 female within that squadron.
Yeah.
And those all have, like I said, the nicknames and stuff of what they represent, and they get a number like 282. And it's just it's the group of individuals that you are going through for those like weeks that you are
Yeah.
trying to make it through basic.
Wow. So how long were your basic training?
Air Force is not that long. I think it's the lowest out of any of them. I think it's only like, oh God, I can't even remember. It's like 8 or 12 weeks. I can't remember. That was so long ago, and it's
Yeah.
all a blur.
Yeah.
Like you kind of weeks blend where you have really no concept of time.
Yeah.
You kind of you just watch the sky rise and fall and hope that you get a couple hours of sleep here and there.
Wow. So describe some of the things that actually took place in your basic training that, they kind of helped you get acclimated to being in the military. Like what's some of the things that you guys had to do?
I mean, during Hell Week, it's kind of they call it Hell Week for a reason. You arrive, you are kind of deprived of sleep. I mean, I remember like one night it felt like I don't know if it was real or not. Like I said, there's no concept of time, but you feel like you get in bed and you're about to fall asleep, and then someone comes in, flips on the lights, and starts screaming at you, and then it's like, let's go and get
Right.
moving. And they kind of sleep deprive you, food you'll try to shovel in your mouth as fast as you can. You'll kind of get one bite and it's drink your bleeping drinks and get out, and so you're like, oh, okay, just drinking liquid today. Great.
Yeah.
um
Mm.
and then the object is to break you down, get rid of all the things, and then kind of rebuild you as they need you to be, and get you fit.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of running, pushing, like, and when I say pushing, pushing up, doing push-ups, sit-ups, everything, getting yelled at, learning your manuals, reading them nonstop, being quizzed on them while you're being screamed at, because
Wow.
they have to intentionally stress you in a psychological way to prepare you for war, to be able to handle those things.
Mm.
So it's more psychological than anything,
Yeah.
but besides getting fit, but other than that, it, a lot of people don't make it, or they get washed back a week or two. Um, it's not meant for everyone, and
Yeah.
it is true, and that's okay. But the ones who do make it through, they do try to make the best out of their careers,
Yeah.
whether short term or long term.
Yeah. So, Andrea, for those who don't make it, what are some things that may cause a person not to make it through basic training?
There's a multitude of things. Sometimes they can't meet the PT part and make it through all those things. Sometimes you'll kind of so-called like kind of tap out and be like, this isn't for me, and that comes with other than or dishonorable discharge.
Yeah.
And some people go to extremes of they can't meet the psychological part, and they go to extremes as such as like, uh, there was a young lady that was in our squadron and her dad's like swore her in. He was like a chief master sergeant and he swore
Right.
her in. She was all talk and everything, and she ended up not being able to hack the mental part, and she kind of threw herself down a flight of stairs and didn't
Wow.
realize there was cameras in the staircase. So, obviously she got a dishonorable discharge for, kind of like a suicide kind of like attempt, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then people get washed back to where, okay, you have what it takes to make it, but we're going to set you back a week or two to give you more time to get fit or prepared,
Oh, okay.
or for punishment. You did something you weren't supposed to do, so they're going to wash you back a week or two or back to zero. It just depends. Sometimes it is a form of punishment.
Yeah. That sounds very similar because when I was in college, I joined a fraternity and there was a lot of similarities there that you just described. We were sleep deprived. We had to get up all throughout the night and go and deliver breakfast at, the big brother's house. There were times
Hmm.
where they would call us and we would have what you call sessions. Sessions is they call the doghouse because we couldn't stay at our apartments or where we would stay. We all had to stay in this tiny little room, and they would call. Well, our dean would call us and say, "Hey, you're gonna have session at 1 o'clock in the morning." And so we would have to bring liquor, food, whatever they wanted, we was gonna bring it. And so when we get there, they just, we knock on the door and they be like, get in here. And you get in there, they get to beat you, I mean, physically beat you down and get to
Hmm.
screaming at you, and you like, yes, sir, no, sir. And it was, oh my God, it was so wild. But it was a lot of mental, I mean, the physical abuse was there too, but the mental was the more challenging part for some of the guys on there and myself. And we had 3 guys. We started off with 13 guys, and we had 3 guys who they just couldn't do it. It was too mentally challenging for them, you
Yeah.
know.
Same with our squadron, like our, drill instructors, they were like, we're gonna drop half of you. He
Yeah,
goes, promise you. And
yeah,
he was not kidding.
yeah.
He was just washing people out left and right to where both on the men's and women's, we got so low in a squadron, we almost had to be divided up amongst other squadrons.
Wow,
We got to graduate in our squadron because one person,
wow.
because otherwise we would have been dispersed
Yeah,
and graduated with other ones, because you have to have a certain amount, and we barely made it. That's how much he washed people out, and that's why it was called House of Hard Knocks in Alcatraz, is because they were that hard on us. They were just ripping us.
yeah.
And it's a lot, but yeah, I get it, because like, you have your rituals, you have your hazing, you have
Mhm.
your, you know stuff to see if you can make it, if you have what it takes to be a part of this.
Yes, exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Um, and it does prepare you mentally. And sometimes you don't even know you that strong mentally because some people haven't ever went through anything that extreme to
Yeah.
test their mental health. And that's why I believe the girl you were talking about threw herself down the stairs. I can only imagine what she was thinking and going through mentally,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep, you have to have night watch to make sure people aren't trying to kill themselves in the bathrooms and stuff like that. So there's always like 2 people on night watch, and they get switched off. But yeah, I mean, they have to watch out for things. But yeah, it gets intense sometimes. Like really, you're like, there's even moments where you think, am I gonna make this? Like, God,
Yeah.
just get me out of here. Like
Yeah.
every person goes through that moment where it's just like, you call home and you're like, "Get me out of here. Like,
Yeah.
help me figure out how I could get out of here. I
Yeah.
can't do it. I can't do it."
Yeah.
And, you know, your family is your support system, and, uh, they helped me push through it, and I still have their letters they would write me, and just like, "Come on, honey, you can do this. Like, and, I made it, because like, there's always that point somewhere along where you're just like, I'm not cut for this.
Right.
Get me out of
Exactly.
here. What did I
Exactly.
get myself into? But,
Exactly.
and that's normal. That's
Yeah.
completely normal to have that thought. And you have to remind yourself, this is part of it. This is part of it. You can make it. And you just
Yeah.
gotta drive.
So for the other people that was with you, did you guys like talk to each other, or were you guys able to encourage each other during the process when y'all saw one person struggling?
It's a little bit of mixed.
Okay.
You have those that you connect with and you build that rapport and you guys push each other, you guys help each other. You guys learn to work together to like, okay, you're really good at doing XYZ. I'll, fix this
Yeah.
part of your uniform or whatever, your bed, your locker, if you can do this for me. You kind of like haggle that way. And then you also have those ones that struggle, and
Mhm.
yeah, you try to help them and push them and give them ideas. And then you have like the little snitches and stuff that tattle on you, and
Mhm.
you're just like, you are getting us punished more and more.
Right.
um to where you're like, hey, do we like beat your ass or
Right.
what? And so it's just like you're costing us. So it's just like, so some people can get ostracized and kind of put off to the side, and then there's those that you just are like, but other than that, like you learn to work as a team. That's the whole point, is
Yeah.
you are a team. And
Yeah.
so I think they intentionally push you that way to see how you're going to deal with all sorts of people.
Yes, that's
The
exactly right.
selfish, the friendly, the
Uh-huh.
naive and stuff, and try to figure out how to work together to
Mhm.
make it through something. So
That's exactly
that
right.
is it's another part of it, because I mean, there's so many different backgrounds, cultures,
Mhm.
individuals of all types, races, everything, and you
Yeah.
guys have to learn to come together and make things work,
Yeah. That's so true. So, so
because you
true.
guys are going to end up having each other's back at some point. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's the
Exactly.
goal, is to
Yeah.
learn how to work through all this. And I think they do try to kind of pit you guys up against each other to see what you're going to do with it.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. That's exactly right. I know when we were going through the Hazen projects, we also had a hell week too. And it was exactly what it sounded like. I think back, I'm like, I don't even know why I did. I was young, want to be part of a crowd, or you
Hmm.
know, but I it was interesting because so in the Hazen world, they call your ship. The people on your line are your ship. And so, within my organization at school I went to, there were like different positions. And so one person will say, I want, this person to be in my position. And and you're gonna earn it. That means you get
Hmm.
beat more to get that position. And
Yeah.
then the next day they may, oh, you was weak today. They may put somebody else in there. And then you got people arguing with each other because now you want to get your butt whooped more to look tough and good in front of these people to get this position. That was one way they was able to pin people up against each other. It was crazy. It was, so I can relate to a lot of things you were saying. When you got out of basic training, what was the next step? Now, what happened after that? Like, did you go somewhere like to another state? Like, what happened?
It depends on your what we call MOS, but it
Okay.
depends on your job that you go in for,
Okay.
or you get assigned to, because sometimes people go under general and they get assigned to whatever. But I went in for medical. So
Oh,
at the
nice.
time they had it in Wichita Falls, Texas. And so I just hopped on another bus and went to my training school. Now I believe all the medics are trained at Lackland now. So it's
Okay.
changed a lot. But yeah, I went to Wichita Falls for medical and stuff. So I went down there. And then so the next step is your training school, to where you learn your job and
Oh,
how
I
to
didn't
do
know
your
that.
job. Yeah.
Mm,
So,
okay.
it just depends where your training is done. So some people go really far, some people stay close. Like, people going for linguists and stuff are here in California all the way out by Monterey.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, all the training schools are in different locations, and those also have a set amount of months that you go for schooling, depending on the job. And then from there, you wait for your duty assignment, your first duty assignment, and your leave date. Because sometimes you'll get stuck at training school. You'll be all done with training school, and your duty assignment isn't ready for you yet. So you'll be stuck
Oh,
there for like a month or two, or sometimes it's vice versa. Your training school isn't set for you to start, but you need to be there. So you'll kind of just be floating around for a little bit.
Oh, so what do you do when you float around? Just do odd jobs or?
You have your like regular duty assignments, like you have your PT on set days. Then yeah, you'll get assigned like odd jobs, like you'll run like the front desk, you'll do like
Okay.
cleaning, things like that. They keep you busy. They don't like just let you go and twiddle your thumbs. So they find stuff for you to do.
Okay.
Go mop the rain.
So it's like a 9 to 5. So were you guys able, like, once you do, say for example, if you were assigned to like the med tech stuff, and once you got off your job, were you able to free to do what you want to do, or how does that work?
So they phase you into, because when you're going through basic, you kind of get this tunnel vision. It's like a horse with like the little mask on. So you get this tunnel vision. So they have to phase you out and kind of reacclimate you into freedom, so to speak.
Oh
Of,
wow.
or their version of freedom, I should say. Um, but so like the first like 4 weeks or something, you are to wear your uniform nonstop. Unless you are in your actual room, you are to wear your uniform before you step out that door. And then
Wow.
they slowly phase you into earning the privilege of wearing civilian clothes. But this was back in my days. I don't know how it is now. I know things are a lot more relaxed. Like we weren't even allowed our cell phones in
Wow.
basic or tech school or anything. You had to earn all these privileges. And now these kids are allowed their cell phones all the way through basic.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really different from today. But back then you had to earn these privileges. Like you couldn't even drive a car. They don't want you driving a car for the first 6 months because
Yeah.
you're tunnel vision. You don't have that spatial awareness anymore.
Yeah.
And so you had to earn all your privileges. And then once you could wear, civilian type clothes on your downtime. You could hang out on campus only, but you could go anywhere you wanted as long as you were on base. And
Yeah.
then once you made it far enough, you were able to like have weekend privileges to where you could go off base on the weekend. You could stay in hotels, you could do things like,
Wow.
and so you got to earn all your privileges and stripes, so to speak, all the way through military.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that was something that people was definitely looking forward to doing, just to kind of get a break. I'm gonna say like for the weekend or something. Is that
Yeah, I
what you're
mean,
saying?
yeah, I mean, it was nice once you earned like your privileges to wear civilian clothes or to get off base. Like you couldn't wait. You're just like, but I mean, they offer a lot of things on base. Like they have like the NCO clubs, they have like things like that where you can be on. Most of us just hang out around the smoke pit area and come together and stuff. Because they keep the men and women separate, obviously, in the
Yeah.
dorms and stuff. But so you kind of just meet out there on the smoke pit areas and the park areas and stuff and hang out. But you earn those privileges to go off base, to drive a car, to do anything really.
Yeah. When you made out of basic training and you went to finish your school and stuff like that, when you start doing your duties, did you notice a change in some people's mental health? Do you feel like the military was starting to affect them mentally?
Um, I mean, sometimes I think there's always those few that kind of go through like this rebellious phase. They want their
Yeah.
freedom now, and so they try to take it, and they go kind of what we call AWOL.
Yeah.
And it's where you kind of leave without permissions and do
Yeah.
your thing, and kind of don't return when you're supposed to, like at curfews and such. But and that comes with its own disciplinary action of being
Yeah.
kicked out of the military. But yeah, I mean, some people you'll start seeing it, but most no, you don't really see it quite yet.
Okay.
Uh, it's more as you get in your actual job assignment or, come back from wars and things like that, from deployments. I shouldn't say wars, but deployments, that you start seeing mental health take its toll.
Yeah. Do you know do you know anybody that got deployed and went to war or to another country, anything like
Uh,
that?
yeah, I was in another country. during the height of it all, which wasn't easy. It comes with its own things, and then everyone I've known has deployed, and we're pretty much deployed. Some do like little I forget what we call them, but it's where you do kind of like a mini deployment.
Yeah,
But yeah, you'll start noticing changes in people, and the culture, because we're not really allowed to do anything else. So basically the culture is you drink.
yeah,
And you start drinking from the moment you get off work until it's time almost to wake up sometimes. And so it's the culture in the military is a lot of partying and drinking, because that's all we can do. That's the only outlet we have.
yeah,
And so it becomes very prevalent. And so, they do watch out for that, and they do have questionnaires and stuff. But you start noticing things taking its toll, and
yeah,
some people while out and do more than that and kind of, ruin their military careers and stuff. And so I even knew people who did that, and it's just kind of intense sometimes.
yeah. How was it like for you when you knew that you was being deployed? Like, because that seemed like something a little bit more, I'm gonna use this terminology, a little bit more well, I'm gonna say extreme, if that's safe
Yeah,
to say.
when the war was beginning, like this was back in '03, like the war was just like popping off. It was
Yeah,
just starting, because I was in basic when Bush Jr. declared war with Afghanistan. So
yeah,
we were just starting to go. And so it was very intense, very almost unstructured.
yeah,
Um the foreign country I was in didn't want to be a part of the war. So they were rebelling against us. So we were being attacked on our bases because they didn't want their siblings to go, family members to go, or anyone being a part of it. But, and so a lot of people were upset all the way around, and you're kind of getting it from everywhere. There's no peace, it felt like, anywhere. And but at the same time, when you get deployed, you're kind of like excited, like woo, but at the same time you're like, oh.
yeah,
So it's a lot of mixed emotions, because you're just like, okay, what am I in store for? But yet you're excited because you're like, this is what I joined for.
right.
And so it's just it's mixed. It's it,
Yeah,
it's a it's adrenaline in any all forms, because it's also being scared, it's also being nervous, it's also being excited.
yeah,
So it's just pure adrenaline.
yeah. Wow. So I'm assuming that certain people were deployed at different places. Is
Oh
it
yeah.
what you say? Okay. Wow. So how was that like? Because I'm assuming, people build relationships, got close, and then, somebody come in and find out, well, I'm leaving tomorrow to go to this country or to go to war. How was that for some you or some of the people that was in there?
um I mean, we know all of our assignments are temporary. We know
Right.
all of our positions, places that we get assigned to is temporary. So I mean, you have one or two choice. You break out, break up, or you get married. And so
Yeah.
some people rush towards marriage because they don't want to be without this person. And uh and then you have those that are like, hey, I'll cut ties. And so, sometimes you become kind of emotionless in that aspect, where it's just like, dang, I like you, I love you, but some people go, this is it, we got to get married because I'm leaving, like you rush. And so it's just, there's only two ways. So it's either get married or say bye.
So, are there any special benefits to people who are married in the military?
Oh yeah, you get extra, spousal pay. You get assigned to duty assignments together when you're married, and things like
Oh,
that. So eventually they can transfer to where you're at, or vice versa, when you're married.
oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So if somebody just say go to Afghanistan and their spouse was somewhere else, the military work really hard to make sure that these two are in the same place.
No, they will never send them both to a war area, a hot zone. They won't do that.
Okay.
But like say, so like in tech school, even we call them tech school sweetheart. So as soon as you get freedom, get to meet someone, you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
because you haven't had any like connection, physically or emotionally
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
So of course everyone's thirsty. And so you meet someone and you're like, ooh. And then you're like, oh, I got assigned here. Like I had a tech school sweetheart
Yeah.
and we almost got married. Like, I mean, I'm glad I didn't, but like we got engaged and they got assigned to Alaska and I got sent overseas. And uh we tried to maintain the relationship as long as we could, and some people immediately go get married, and then so they'll go to you guys will go to your duty assignments, and then what they'll do is kind of see who has the extra place to go where. Like if they have an extra position at that, they'll see which place has the extra position in your career field, and to see if you can either who goes to what base, so you guys could be together married. But going to like a hot zone or anything like that, no, they won't do that.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So yeah, I didn't know that. So I wanted to kind of clear that up. And so once you go through the basic training, you're in the mix, you get deployed and stuff like that. Um, when did you start noticing within yourself that or did you start noticing within yourself that okay, you ready for this to be over with? Based off now you've had your experience, you see what it's like, you was able to, get through basic training. Was there a point in time you was like, okay, I'm ready for this to be over with?
Um, I mean, for me, it was a little different in the military. Some people really love their career. It's easy for them. And each branch is different in the way you operate, the way its structure is.
Yeah.
Um, but there's always politics and everything. Like there's
Okay.
politics in jobs. There's always politics and everything. And you're always gonna have those people you don't get along with even. And
Yeah.
there's gonna be those in, command that you don't respect.
Yeah.
And you're taught like, hey, you don't have to like the person, but you have to respect the rank. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay. So you learn those type of qualities and you try to make the best out of it. And you know, I kind of knew I was done after like my first duty assignment. Being overseas, and all that, dealing with everything. Um, I don't do well at kissing ass and I'm not afraid of much. So for those that are in command that like that and want that, I didn't do very good with. And you kind of get limelighted and life becomes hell every second of it. And when your life is made to become hell, you're like, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
done. And so, yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where you start thinking, is this meant for me or not? And I enjoyed what I did in the military, absolutely.
Yeah.
It did have its toll, it did have its effects,
Yeah.
both healthy and not healthy.
Yeah.
And but I loved it.
Yeah.
And but I don't do well with the politic games.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
do well with that. I don't play
yeah.
them. I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. Man, that's
So,
interesting.
uh, I mean, you know me for a while. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, you you're pretty straight up. So
yeah. So I don't play him very well. I'm not meant to kiss ass or anything. I'll tell you how it is. I don't care who you are.
yeah.
And so I was just kind of like, okay, this isn't meant for me. And I got out after my 8 and I was just done. I was like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
So
So when you got out of the military, let's switch gears. What was that like for you? Because you've been, exposed to this certain type of lifestyle, structured, for 8 years. And now you're back in a civilian life. Like, what was that like for you? Let's talk about that.
um you
Were you
kind of
nervous? Were you nervous getting out, even though you want to leave?
you're excited and you're nervous and you're lost. You're like,
Yeah,
okay. Like at first you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to wear civilian clothes all the time, like
right.
dress however I want. And then you're like, the biggest thing is you're like, I can't wait to quit a job.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
the one thing we're all like, I can't wait to quit a job because you
yeah,
can't quit the military. You can't,
yeah,
they own you.
yeah,
And so it's something you can't quit. And I think a lot of our first process is like, I can't wait to quit a job and be like, I quit. Just
yeah,
because of that mental capacity of feeling like you're back in control of your life.
yeah,
But also you're like, I can't wait to not have to get up so early and do XYZ. I can't wait to just be lazy.
yeah,
And at first, yeah, I was enjoying being lazy. I was like, okay. And some people get out and already have a plan. They're that driven to where it's like goal after goal after goal. And but I enjoyed a little bit, I had my son, he was a baby, so I mean, I had parental responsibilities and um I just kind of was also enjoying spending more time with him and being a parent and kind of being kind of lazy. And then, I got a job and everything. And I was just, but when I could, I quit that job and it felt good just to say, like, hey, I quit,
yeah,
But I, I really just, it was a little bit of both because you don't know what to do with your time anymore. So much of your life is dictated from the time you get up to the time you go to sleep. It's just very dictated. And even what you do outside of work is still
yeah,
dictated to a degree. Um, so it was nice, but at the same time, you're like, oh, what now? And,
yeah,
as much as you can't wait to wear regular clothes, you sit there and you stare at your closet. And I remember staring in my closet for 45 minutes straight, just like, what do
yeah,
I wear? Because you
yeah,
wear the same thing every day. So
right,
you don't have to think.
right,
And you're sitting there staring at your closet like, oh my God, I have all these choices.
yeah,
Like, what the hell do I wear? What do I do with my time?
yeah,
And so you're a little lost. And, as time goes on, you're like, if you don't already have your purpose figured out
yeah,
and where you're going to go next, and you could have an idea, but if you don't have it 100% figured out, you
yeah,
start feeling lost because,
yeah,
military gives you a purpose.
yeah,
They do. And when you get out, you lose that purpose. Like people who are trained as certain job career fields in the military that really there's nowhere for you to still serve that purpose outside,
hmm,
you really don't have a purpose anymore.
yeah, wow,
Because even me getting out with all the experience of being in the medical field, I wasn't equivalent to Jack outside the military. And
yeah,
yet I was doing what a nurse could do in
yeah,
civilian work. And I get out and I have to challenge to be an EMT. And
yeah,
you're like, I can do what a nurse does. Like, are you kidding me?
yeah,
And so you find out you're not worth as much as you thought you were. And yet you have more experience than what that career does in the real world. And so
right,
you're kind of like, well, this sucks. And so, you go back to school and then you're like, this doesn't make me as much money as I thought. And you're just like, okay, what next? And you're just like, all right.
yeah,
So, I mean, it's a lot of misdirection that you're kind of also given. And then, people who are, you know, trained to be frontmen and stuff, like, what career can you do with that?
yeah,
Be a police officer or what? And it's just like, other than that, you kind of lose a sense of purpose and you're like, what good am I anymore? Like,
yeah,
and then if you get out with physical or mental issues, you feel broken.
yeah,
And we call ourselves broken soldiers. We're
yeah,
like, I'm broken.
yeah,
And and then that comes with a whole other separate battle that you have to go and fight for. And it's just everything is a fight. And to reconfigure your life, it's crazy and it's ironic because when you come into the military, they break you down and rebuild you to what you need. But when you get out, they're like, hey, there's all these resources out there for you, but good
Yeah.
luck, bye.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh wait, you're not going to transition me back into. Oh
Right.
no, no, no. You just go out there and you find them. They're out there. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. And so you feel lost and you just feel like you're set free and okay, bye. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for
Wow.
the service.
Yeah. And I know I've worked with people and know people who were in the military and they're veterans. And I know a lot of them got out of there and, they got PTSD. Some people, went to war and, got not just mental issues, but physical issues too. Do you know anyone that have experienced that getting out of the military?
Me personally, I have both physical and mental, the PTSD and stuff. Um, so yeah, I suffered with that. I have a lot of friends that have suffered with one or two or both, or I don't really have any friends. You kind of don't make it out the same. Let's just put it
Right.
that way.
Right, exactly. So
When I first got home, it was crazy. Like I was a totally different person, and it was just like I didn't return the same.
right. And so how did your first how did you cope with that? That's my first question. How did you cope with that, knowing that okay, my life changed, physically and mentally, because obviously now you gotta seek resources, seek help. How was that for you?
Hell.
Yeah,
It was hell. Um, I think there is a stigma around certain career fields
yeah,
that it makes it a little harder to get treatment. Like, uh, me being in the medical field, you're expected to see some stuff.
yeah,
And so when I was seeking help for my PTSD, because it was really, really bad, uh, uh, and was told for like the first 8 years, it took me 8 years to get diagnosed with it because I had to fight for it for every ounce of it. Because I
wow,
got told, hey, you're a medic, it comes with the territory. And I'm
wow,
like, I'm messed up. Like this
yeah,
isn't normal. Like I'm
right,
not normal right now.
yeah,
Like, how are you gonna tell me this is comes with the territory?
wow,
And so, I think in certain career fields, they kind of brush you off because it's like, well, you signed up for that job. You got put in that job. So that
yeah,
comes with the territory. And you're just like, but I'm not okay. So I
right,
think there's a lot of uh, dismissal of a lot of things for a lot of people. And I think that's why there is such a high suicide rate these days,
yeah,
is because you're already fighting to live every day, let alone fighting the system to get the help you need to become better.
yeah, yeah.
So it's hard.
Yeah. And I've heard that some people when they get out of military, they be want to go back in because they don't know how to survive as a civilian. They're so mentally stuck with the way the military was training them. So when they get out there, they literally can't survive.
Yeah. Same thing like when you compare it to like prison and things like that, you
Right.
become institutionalized.
Yeah.
And like I said, you get out, you're lost, and you don't feel like you have a purpose anymore. That's the biggest thing to help veterans is like help them find their purpose. Give
Yeah.
them that purpose, that reason to help find themselves, get back up
Yeah.
because you either want to go back in. I even tried to go back in. I was like, man, screw this. Like, I'm better off there.
Yeah.
And I even thought about going back in. And I even looked into it. And
Yeah.
so it's just I get it. You do. You become, institutionalized to the military system, and you felt like you thrived. You felt like you did good there. You
Yeah.
felt more balanced and accepted
Yeah.
because all the people that you knew before you went in keep telling you when you get out, hey, you're not the same. What's
Yeah.
wrong with you? Who
Right.
are you? You know? And so there's a certain type of culture in there where we all just kind of get each other. It's like
Right.
this unspoken bond where it's just like, I get you, I see you. So you
Yeah.
feel accepted.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, you get out and you don't know what world you belong in anymore
Yeah.
because part of you doesn't want to be in the military anymore. That's why you got out. But the other part of you, no one understands you, no one gets you. This is just how you feel internally.
Yeah.
Is that, where do I belong now?
Yeah.
Like, I don't fit in. Who do I fit in with? None of these people get me. No one knows what I've been through.
Yeah.
And you feel that. It's just you don't feel a connection to society anymore, and they don't feel a connection to you.
Yeah. Do you feel, Andrea, that some people also suffer from a form of depression being out of the military? Because once again, that's kind of like, and you compare it to like prison. Some people really, once they're institutionalized, they cannot survive being outside of the prison walls, because it is, structure. They tell you when to get up, when to go to sleep, certain things you can't do, you can't come out of your cell, whatever. And it just worked for some people,
Yeah.
and I believe I have people that I know personally that are institutionalized. And,
Mhm.
people, I'm trying to be careful until at the name so people can't figure this out. But I know when these individuals going in and out of prison, people was just talking about them like, oh, I can't believe that they stupid. Why don't you want to go back? But then I'm thinking like, well, have you ever thought about the fact that they could live in there rent free? They don't have to worry about no bill. They have to worry about no debt. They eat 3 times a day or how many other times a day, and that's their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I got it. I understood that way of thinking when you think of it like that. But some people they can't. They just cannot. Once they get in that mindset, they don't know how to survive. And I think a lot of that leads to depression, which leads to suicidal ideation and so forth. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a system, you know
Yeah.
how it operates, you know how it works, and you know how to thrive in it.
Uh-huh.
And you get back out into the wild, life, the world, civilian world, and you don't everyone is a different type of person.
Yeah.
Everything is unpredictable. And I
Yeah.
think that is the biggest thing is it's unpredictable. In the military, you know what you're getting. In prison, you
Right.
know what you're getting. You know what you're looking out for. Out here, you don't know what's waiting for you. There's
Yeah.
too many variations and you don't know how or what to navigate.
Yeah.
And um it's like when you're so used to just, like I said, having one choice of clothes to wear every day. That's
Yeah.
easy. And you
Yeah.
go now to a closet full of 100 choices.
Yeah.
That's what life is like on the outside. And we
Yeah.
don't know how to make those choices anymore because our whole military life has been directed and guided. So
Yeah.
it's just so different.
Yeah. So when you did come home, we got a couple of minutes left, but when you did come home and you knew that you need, some resources, physically and mentally, were you eventually able to get connected with the right resources to address your mental and your physical concerns?
Um, like I said, I fought 8 years for the true thing that I knew was wrong with me, the PTSD.
Okay.
8 years of fighting with
Okay.
doctors, and everything. That was hell. I mean,
Yeah.
you leave almost in tears and ready just to end it right there because no,
Yeah.
you're not getting the help you need. No, you're not getting the direction you need. And
Yeah.
all that you feel like you're handed is another pill. Like
Yeah.
when I got out, uh, the VA put me on 54 different freaking pills that
Wow.
um let's just put it this way, I came close to ending it at one point in my life. One
Yeah.
minute I was like between the physical pain and everything, they had me on 54 medications. I'm young. I'm still in
Yeah.
my 20s. And
Yeah.
all I can think about is what my life is going to be like when I'm 40, when I'm 50, when I'm 60. Am I going to even make it this long?
Yeah.
And I had to that in that moment of wanting to just end it all right then and there, I just grabbed all the meds, got rid of them, dumped them, said
Yeah.
screw them. And I started taking my life back into control myself. And I started looking for things to help improve my life. And I also started advocating better for myself with the doctors and stuff. Yeah, sometimes I fight with them, sometimes I have to switch,
Yeah.
but I learned to advocate for myself. And that's the biggest thing, is fighting for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Andrea, thank you so much for sharing your stories and taking us back down memory lane when you thought about joining the military, to your basic training and to your being in the military and then again now. This was very informative for me to be personally, because there was a lot I just didn't know, to be honest with you. And I'm so glad that you were able to share your story, and I hope that people who watch this particular show really get some out of it, because there are loved ones that are in the military of other people. And maybe this information you share would give them some type of insight as to what they're going through. And when they do come home, to be there to provide that extra support and advocacy for them or with them when they need the help that they need when they get out of that. So thank you so
Yeah,
much for sharing your story.
no worries. And, just for any veterans out there struggling, or active duty people, there are resources.
Yeah.
There are, and they're out there, and there are ways to find your purpose again. And I'm happy to share those another time, but there are so many resources to help you find your purpose again.
Okay. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you.
And that's it for this edition of Mental Health Matters. If you enjoyed this particular show, if you would like to be on our guest, if you would like to be a guest on our show, or if you would like a DVD copy of this show, please dial 916-366-4600. Thank you.